Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and this is the beginning of March 2022, and I am going to be doing a monthly experiment. In March, I would like to focus on my physical TBR and not finishing necessarily the books that I'm in the middle of, but I just want to make progress in some of my physical books because, just looking at the past 2 months, January and February, I didn't pick up these books at all. And that's something I want to be intentional about because I don't want to forget any plot details or anything like that, and I still want to make progress in these books. March is not for necessarily finishing books, but making progress in physical books. So that's going to be my focus. So the first book I'm going to talk about is a short story collection called Sword Stone Table, Old Legends, New Voices, edited by Swampna Krishna and Jen Northington. This is a collection of Arthurian legend retellings, but make it racially diverse and LGBTQIA plus diverse. So this features a bunch of different authors, usually from the United States, but there are some that are from elsewhere that take a little snippet of Arthurian legend and make it their own. It's broken up into 3 parts. So part 1 is like set in medieval times. Part 2 is set in modern times. So if like Merlin and Arthur went to high school together, that kind of vibe. And then part 3 is in like a sci-fi dystopian future setting. So Arthur set in space kind of thing. And so I managed to read all of the stories in part 1. And then once I got to part 2, I stopped. So the goal for this book in particular is to read maybe 3 or 4 of the stories in part 2, if not finish part 2. Another goal of mine is to physically read some of my favorite books and highlight and add little tabs to my favorite phrases, my favorite emotional scenes. I've been doing this a lot with my romance books in the past, but for this month, I am going to be working through The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. So this is about Linus Baker, who goes to a magical orphanage to check up on the children and to write an evaluation to make sure the children are being taken care of. And this is a super sweet male-male romance plus found family fantasy book. And this is one of my favorite books, so hopefully I can read a good chunk of this and just add tabs and highlights. Next, we have kind of a doozy, and that is a nonfiction essay collection called Capitalism and Disability. And this is the selected writings of Martha Russell. Martha Russell was a huge disability activist for the last 20 years, and she did unfortunately pass away in 2013, and so this is a collection of her most prolific writings. I've read 1 of these essays so far, and it was very, very dense, and I had to look up things, I had to Google some definitions, and this is just a really high level of brain power, which is why I put it down. So the goal for this month and this book is to read 1 more essay. The essays are short. They're only maybe 10 to 20 pages, but they really tax my brain and they require a lot of effort. So I really want to get at least 1 of these done. And maybe, moving forward, I will read 1 essay a month until I finish this collection. We'll see how that goes. The last book that I'm going to be focusing on in this month, in this vlog, is my white whale, and that is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is a horror novel, a very, very famous, intense horror novel, and I was loving this. Don't get me wrong. I read 40 pages. and really loved it. But the reason I put this down was kind of similar to Capitalism Disability. Those 40 pages took me about 3 hours to read. And the reason for that is that there are footnotes within footnotes. This is a story within a story within a story format. And while I was enjoying all 3 of the narratives and how they were woven together, again, this was just something that was really busting my brain. And just, I need to devote more time to reading this. It's not a book that, for me personally, I can just pick up and just blast through. I really need to be focusing on this. So I would love to make more progress in this so I don't forget what happened in those 40 pages. These are all of the books that I hope to make progress in this month. And here I will do one of these so you can kind of see where my bookmarks are. And then I'm gonna do probably like a weekly check-in to see, you know, where I am in each book, and then at the end I will tally up how many pages I was able to accomplish, how many short stories and essays and whatnot. So welcome to the vlog, to this interesting type of video and reading challenge for the month of March, and I will see you in a reading update. I promise I'll film an update in a different spot at some point, but it is the 7th of March. So I'm doing my first week check-in, so how I did this last week with my reading challenge for March. And so far, so good. Not as much as I wanted to get to, but I mean, you could say that about anything. So first of all, I did manage to read 3 chapters of The House in the Cerulean Sea, and my goal was to read 5 by the end of the month. So you can see here's my bookmark, and that equates to about an additional 100 pages or so. I am tabbing along the way for moments that make me laugh, make me sad, make my heart melt. Usually it's with the children, to be honest. So I am making quite a bit of progress with this one. And I also am happy to say I read three short stories off of Swordstone Table, and I'm in the middle of a 4th one. So my goal was to read like 2 of these stories, so I'm already surpassing that goal. That equates to about 80 to 100 pages of this. So I'm really proud of myself for getting to this one this week. As far as the other 2, haven't even picked them up yet. So for week 2 of March, I think I'm going to try to at least start one of the essays and just try to pick back up House of Leaves. So here are the bookmarks, so you can see where I'm at. I haven't done a weekly update for this vlog. It is actually Thursday the 17th. Usually I was planning on updating on Monday, but a little bit of a life update is I am working back in the office again. So I am working part-time from home, part-time in the office. Things have been really hard, but that's kind of what's been going on this last week and a half. So let's talk about what I was able to read and accomplish. It's not a lot, but I'm still kind of proud of myself. Let's talk about Capitalism Disability. Like I have mentioned in the intro of this is an incredibly challenging and difficult essay collection to get through, because the level of scholastic, scholarly writing in here is incredibly challenging for me personally, and it delves into a lot of Marxist theory, fairly deep, and I don't know the technical, like I haven't studied these topics in this depth in years. But I was able to read one essay, which was 10 pages, and it was about way in which disabled people are considered a reserve army of labor, and how in the 90s, essentially President Clinton was attempting to use the disabled community to not increase inflation, but increase labor in the workforce. So what that does is you're adding a bunch of disabled people to the workforce who previously could not work, so they were not a part of the unemployment pool. And so he put in place a bunch of accessibility policies for employers. Thank you, Hiccup, for joining me. To get disabled people who were previously on, government assistance back into the workforce. And what that would do is it would increase labor output without increase labor output without increasing inflation or increasing or decreasing the unemployment rate. It was a really interesting essay and a really interesting perspective. I don't know if I'm explaining it super well, but that was my takeaway from that essay. And this is incredibly fascinating. You want to see Hiccup? Hold on. So this is incredibly interesting. And those 10 pages took me about 45 minutes to read because I was researching and highlighting and writing notes the whole time. So again, it doesn't look like I got very far because I didn't, but I managed to not only read but comprehend one of these essays. The only other thing I managed to read was a little bit more of The House in the Cerulean Sea. I trimmed my tabs so they're not sticking out quite so far. And I have about 100 pages left. This week has been incredibly hard, as you can imagine. So I've been kind of diving into this comfort read. Oh yes. This comfort read right before bed, or, right before I try to fall asleep, because I love it so. So I've got about 100 pages of this left. I would love to finish this by the end of March. So I've got about 2 weeks in order to do that, and I think that's a pretty reasonable goal. I'm in my bathrobe again. It's been another week, and so I really need to do a check-in for this vlog. Here we are. I did manage to complete The House in the Cerulean Sea this week. You can see all my tabs. I ran out of blue and had to switch colors, but I still think the yellow kind of fits in with the cover. I cried rereading this again. I truly love it, and yeah, this is an all-time favorite, and I'm really happy I was able to accomplish this read through and kind of annotate, well, not necessarily annotate, but tab my favorite lines as I went along. So this is what the book looks like after I read it. See all the tabs. And I mostly did this right before bed, so that's a good habit to do for me, specifically because I have such a hard time sleeping. Now we only have 1 week left of March. I'm reading some really fun things in general, but as far as this project goes, I'm doing okay. I have not been in the mood for House of Leaves, and that was like something I really wanted to get to, but I don't know if it's gonna happen, so I want to at least get one more essay done and maybe one more short story. So I will do a wrap up at the end of March. Thank you so much for following along. I'll see you in the next clip. Oh, I look like a wet rat with a pink face, but this is my one chance to film the end of this vlog, and also Tetra is joining us, trying to lick all of the moisture that I just added to my own face. Yes. Oh. Tell me about what you read in March. Did you do a lot of reading? So I'm going to talk about all the things I was able to complete as an overview. So I read one essay from this essay collection, and it was 10 pages. It was really interesting, and when my brain is more engaged, I will definitely be returning to this essay collection by Marta Russell. I managed to complete The House in the Cerulean Sea, which amounts to 322 pages or so. And this was great. This was a lovely reread. I had a wonderful time revisiting these lovely characters and this very whimsical world. I am happy to announce that not only did I read more short stories in this collection, I completed this short story collection, which amounts to, so I completed the rest of this short story collection, which amounts to 300 pages of this read, and I'm really, really happy with that. It is so hard for me to read physical books because of my hands, but I'm really happy to say that I completed this collection. Unfortunately, wasn't my favorite overall collection. I think there were some shining stars in this collection. There's a short story by Ken Liu, fantastic sci-fi story, and there's also one, Heartbeat by Wabgeshig Rice, who is an Indigenous author. That story was 5 stars for me. The Bladesmith Queen by Sarah McLean. Those were my favorite stories. I thought those were all really, really fun, really engaging, and so I gave this overall collection like a 3 stars. There were some really, really good and some I really didn't like. So a 3-star average for this, and 300 pages. So overall, I killed it this month. I'm so proud of myself finally tackling some of these physical books on my TBR, and hopefully I will continue this trend moving forward in the rest of the year. Thank you so much for watching this vlog reading challenge, and let me know what you read in March, because I would love to know, and happy birthday to me. Bye.